them.
Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Go. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. We rollin'!
Covering MMA from all over the world, this is the premier stop for all your combat sports needs. MMA Junkie Radio, the only show broadcasting live from the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. The lights are on and the mics are hot. It's time to get your MMA fix, junkies. Take it away, Big John.
Gorgeous George and Goes, are you ready? Junkie Nation, are you ready? Well, let's get it on.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me today is the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Back east, producing the show, Andre the Giant. What's up, guys?
Hey, nothing much. Just I really like this At the Fights discussion about manscaping. I dig it.
Well, that took a left turn, didn't it?
Jerry Cooney, I think, was the only one not on board.
Very detailed how not
it was
on
like
board
unanimous
was.
yes, except for Jerry.
Exactly. All right. Maybe we'll get into that. It's going to be a fun show today. We actually have no guests confirmed. We did throw out the fishing line, and there might be some possibilities. And trust me, in the past I've said no guests today, and 3 wind up showing up. But on paper, look, we don't like to lie on the preview. So we just got a lot of cool segments, a lot to talk about, inside and outside the rings, the cages, the octagons, the whatevers. So it's going to be a fun show, and we'd like you to participate. 877-FIGHT-93, 877-344-4893. Today is Friday the 24th of May, and this is a long weekend. It's Memorial Day holiday weekend. So quick reminder, we won't be here on Monday, and we'll be back on Tuesday. And regarding Memorial Day, you know, it's a kind of the beginning of summer for many. It's a great day for families to get together, but let's not forget Memorial Day is a day to remember, you know, and observe, pay respect to all those that have fallen in battle for our great country. So if any of you out there know somebody, you know, please, our deepest respect to you and your families for the sacrifices made by family or friends that you may have that have you know, served our military and, like I said, fallen for our country, man. Without you, without their sacrifice, we just wouldn't have the great country, the great powerful country that we have, the freedoms that we have, the ability for us to do the type of show that we're doing. I don't know what kind of a country we would have, but it'd be much different. You know, it's pretty special to live in the United States.
Yeah, really well said there, George. I second that. I second that thought as well. Also kind of crazy, which I'm sure we'll interlude with this episode as we talk about fights, like you said, the theme of this episode. But
manscaping?
Memorial. Well,
oh, sorry. I thought you had.
Let's keep on the other M. I was going to say Memorial Day weekend M. I know the M is kind of burned in our heads from the conversation we just heard earlier from Jerry Cooney. But no, Memorial Day weekend. They're traditionally a very big fight weekend, especially here in Vegas.
Yeah.
And George, I know you're a big chest bumper for the the destination times where you can come here for fights, and that usually was one, and a stronger one, wasn't
every
it?
year. It was penciled in. Super Bowl, Memorial, 4th, Labor, end of the year. You know, you could just bank on them.
In fact, today, the 24th, exactly, I was like, why is this date familiar? One of my favorite, of course, Memorial Day UFC fight cards is this one right here. UFC 84, Ill Will.
Oh, okay, that was Sean Shirk and BJ Penn.
And Vanderlei Silva, Keith Jardine, Machida Ortiz with the Dana is my bitch shirt. He wore to the weigh-ins when they were feuding. That was some Stone Cold Steve Austin, Vince McMahon feuding there.
Yeah. We used to have we probably, let me see, of the 5 we had, I think 6 or 7 junkie gatherings. At least half of them were on Memorial Day.
Yeah,
and you know, so I have some fond memories of that, and like, because we started the show, it was April 11, 2007. And we averaged about 240, 250 episodes a day. It also signified us getting like a round number, like 1,000, 2,000 or whatever.
Yeah,
you know, now granted, with vacations and, you know, like that staggering effect over 12 years, we're going to celebrate 3,000 later this year. But tons of memories from Memorial Day. My buddy Big Ralph used to have a big Memorial Day blowout as well at his house. But yeah, I just haven't been down there. I've been living here now for 10 years.
He puts MMA wise. He'd
have the pay-per-view. He would have literally a party at his house 4 days straight.
Savage.
Started kind of slow on Friday. People started, showing up mostly on Saturday and Sunday, and then by Monday there was still just so much food and drink left over. It was fun times. Anyway, all right, listen. Let's talk about Justin Willis, who, by the way, might be one of our guests. Justin Willis was one of the big stories today, and frankly, I'm gonna be honest with you, there wasn't too much of the big news. The Brock Lesnar's, Ronda Rousey's, Conor McGregor's, Dana White's, UFC, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Wasn't too much of it today, but when I saw this, I was like, what? I mean, I had to just make sure this wasn't some sort of a joke where I didn't misread it. But according to the source that first broke the story, Aaron Bronstetter from TSN, they reported that Justin Willis, was released after he turned down a fight with Walt Harris for UFC on ESPN 4. According to him, according to our story, UFC official declined to elaborate on the circumstances that led to the decision, which kind of almost feels like that's a confirmation of what Bronstetter reported. However, we were lucky enough to catch up with Justin Willis, and he's saying that this has been settled and he is not cut.
Right.
And we did go first to his manager, and they didn't immediately respond to a request for comment, but Willis has said that this is a big communication. His quote is, "It's a big miscommunication, and technical difficulty between me and the UFC. I'll put it like that. But everything has been worked out. You will have a fight in the near future." Now listen, this is why it was surprising. I know Willis is coming off a loss to Curtis Blades, but he's 4-1 in the octagon. I think he's 10-2 overall. And that win that led him to the Blades fight, that was Mark Hunt, where he looked awesome.
Right.
He looked really, really good, outstriking the striker. So Willis had, I felt like a huge upside, a big promise. But this is what he was saying. Basically, I guess Walt Harris was the fight that they were looking at, and he did not want to fight Walt Harris. He wanted to fight someone ahead of him, ranked higher than him.
Right.
He said he would fight sooner than August if it was somebody ahead of him. But if it wasn't ahead of him and it was going to be somebody like Harris, he wanted to wait till August. And I don't know that that's asking for much. He's coming off a loss, right? And then another thing he said, he wanted to do his camp side by side with Daniel Cormier.
Right.
That's why he wanted to fight in August. Now, a guy coming off a loss, he's 4-1, and you just got your butt whooped by Curtis Blades. I could see yourself taking your time and not rushing back, and just because the promotion needs you, well, hey, listen, I also got to look out for myself.
Right.
So when he explained it that way, I thought, well, that kind of makes sense. Now, if they were willing to offer him a big marquee name, then I guess he was willing to just step up and do it, because the risk can be, the reward can be high for taking that risk.
Right. But
otherwise, he just wants to take his time and fight in August, and I didn't see a problem with that. Now, again, that's his side of things.
yeah, I'm reading too, of course, the Junkie article we're referencing, and you can read into it too as far as preparation. I mean, they kind of shoot down the weight allegations because Willis had trouble. He actually was pulled. He's one of the few guys who cuts down a heavyweight. He was pulled for health reasons for UFC 208 back in the day, and maybe the timeline didn't work in that regard too. Now it seems like him and Abe Cowell, his manager, shuts that down in the article. But later, toward the bottom of the article, he kind of does reaffirm that he really just doesn't want to rush it. Citing Picasso didn't rush things. I want to come back faster, quicker, and all those things. And yeah, I think if we're reading between the lines here, we're bumping heads. But there are common threads to this, George, because I thought of Misha Serkinov when I first saw these things, the conflicting reports. Remember, Misha Serkinov had a similar thing. He fought out the end of his contract, and he kind of gambled on himself. But the common thread is he came off a loss, and the other name that kind of we had this was with Yair Rodriguez, and he was coming off of that Frankie Edgar loss back at UFC 211. That's why we didn't see him for that long gap, remember? Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. Is it certain guys that whether they and or the UFC think they should be high, then they take that loss, but they're also at that negotiation time. And whereas most fighters will, and they'll talk about it whether they like it or not. They go, well, it's hard to negotiate with the UFC. For one, they hold kind of the cards, right? It's kind of stacked in their favor. And two, if I'm coming off a loss, what negotiating power do I have? Maybe these are guys that, whether right or wrong, they put their foot down, George, after their loss and said, no, I lost, but kind of like you said, I'm still 4-1. I beat Mark Hunt, and UFC clearly maybe not feeling that argument, but is that what we're seeing here? If we're reading between the lines, people putting their heels down after
the Blades loss wasn't that long ago. It's not like he's been holding out for 8 months or a year or anything like that.
It's true.
So him saying I'll come back in August and fight Harris, that doesn't seem unreasonable. But here's another thing that Dana White said. When we come calling, you better answer or we'll move to the next guy.
Right.
He didn't say when we come calling, you better answer, accept, or we'll cut you. Because remember he told Covington and a few of the others, listen, if you're not ready to go, we move on to the next guy.
Right.
And they have done that. Okay, noted. But you cut someone that's 4-1, that seems like more like a pissing match, an ego thing.
Yes.
Now, I don't know what the phone call was like. I don't know if it was like, you better go fuck yourself, or something about the mama or whatever. I mean, if that was thrown in there and somebody was just disrespectful and an executive says, hey, look, I've had it up to here with that guy, then I get it. Maybe there are some fighters that are difficult, we'll say.
Right.
And I'm not saying Justin Willis is because I wasn't there.
Right.
But when you're coming off a loss, that's when they can cut you.
Yeah.
When you're coming off a win, they can't cut you. You can be super difficult, but if you won 12 in a row, they can't cut you. At least according to fighters that have told me that's a few things that jump out at them with UFC contracts. Now, when is UFC on Espn Four? Let's start with that. That's the show that was going to be headlined by Tyron Woodley and Robbie Lawler, June 29th. So if you follow MMA Junkie Radio, MMA Junkie, or whatever, you follow a sport of MMA, you kind of know that they kind of went through a sequence there. When Woodley fell off, it looked like they were trying to maybe get somebody in for Lawler. Then they moved Lawler off the card, and they brought in Ngannou and Dos Santos. So that's a card that the UFC picked up the phone a lot and sent a lot of voicemails and texts and had a lot of conversations because they were trying to make something happen. It looks like maybe they were trying to make something happen here with Walt Harris and Justin Willis. That didn't work, and so they actually had to pull a card from UFC 239 to satisfy that because it's on big ESPN. So it could be that the promotion was like, hey, man, almost feeling offended that the fighters didn't want to be team players. You know what I mean? But Big Pretty, he says he wants to come in at 255 now, no longer 265. He really wants to dial things down. He really wants to train alongside Daniel Cormier. He's coming off a loss, and he's being pretty honest and assessing his career and saying, okay, listen, I gotta have a more serious camp than the previous ones because I just cannot come up short again. When you're winning and you're 4-0 and everybody's asking you questions like, you think 2019 might be the year you go for a title or whatever, those questions go away. You know what I mean? Because you're now 4-1. Now we're asking Curtis Blades with the comeback over Justin Willis, do you think 2019? Those losses can have huge repercussions. So, again, according to Justin Willis, he's all right. This has already been settled. And he says, look out for a future matchup. And in the past, fighters have gotten cut, and they've actually returned. Look up Cain Velasquez and was it John Fitch in the video game in 2007 or something like that?
Good reference
2009.
Way back in the day.
So, there's been, stories before of fighters that have gotten cut and they come back, or miscommunications, or two sides of a story. He said, she said, whatever. But that was just one that jumped out at me.
Yeah. I agree completely. I think, more of a, to use the word like you said, pissing contest. If I'm trying to read between the lines, George, for what the speculation's worth. And at the end of it, I don't get too crazy about these things, too high or too low about them, because like you said, these things will work themselves out. We've seen it before. Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about Donald Cerrone and Tony Ferguson, and we're going to do our daily debate a little early today because it has to do with a quote from Donald Cerrone regarding his upcoming fight with Tony Ferguson. I think it'll be a really, really interesting discussion because it can actually go in many ways. So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, channel 156.
All jokes aside, George and Goes are some of the best chicks I know. Here we go with more verbal sparring. Take it away, ladies.
SiriusXM wants to send you and a friend to see Billy Joel live at London's Wembley Stadium from the front row. Plus, you'll get to meet the Piano Man after the show. One grand prize winner will win a trip to London, including airfare and hotel, along with front row tickets to the concert on June 22nd and a meet and greet with Billy Joel. For official rules and to enter, go to SiriusXM.com/BillyJoelLondon. Do that before June 7th. No additional purchase is necessary to enter or to win. Have you already gotten in the contest, Dan Tom?
I am jumping in the deep end first.
Okay. All right, Dan Tom. So check it out.
Yes, sir.
I'm going over the news today.
Okay.
And this headline jumps out at me. It has to do with Donald Cerrone. He basically says something along the lines of, I ain't worried because Tony Ferguson's a volume striker. And, you know, there's a little bit of truth to that. I think what Cerrone's faced everybody. Hard hitters, volume punchers, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialists, wrestlers, capoeira, whatever. You know what I mean? But I think what he was saying was there's just, you know, there's those certain fight bookings like a Yoel Romero where like if I were to go, Dan, would you like to fight Yoel Romero? You're not going to go, yes. You're going to go, let me call you in 24 hours. You want to give it some deep thought. You want to watch and study this guy. You want to talk to your judges and your coaches and make sure, can I escape some of this heavy artillery for a few rounds and then maybe make a move in round 3, 4, or 5 or whatever your strategy is going to be against Yoel, because he's dangerous, you know what I mean? Right. Or Ngannou, or just some of those hard traditional hitters. And I think that's what Cerrone was saying, because he was vacationing in Mexico. And I think basically his point was like, hey man, this dude's a volume puncher, and look, that's like music to my ears. I'm in there and I'm in a fight. Are you kidding me? Seems like a guy that likes getting punched, but he also seems like a guy that likes for the fight to evolve and then for him to strike like a cobra.
Yeah, definitely. I was reading that too. The headline kind of caught me off guard because I'm like, if it's frustrating for anybody, it should be frustrating for Ferguson, the uncrowned champ. I mean, especially because if you look at it, if Ferguson, this fight will go down before Khabib gets him back in there, and let's say Ferguson does win against Donald Cerrone. You're gonna tell me you're gonna look at his resume next to Khabib's or anyone else and look me straight in the face and say that resume is better than Tony Ferguson's? It is not. You are a liar. It is a frustrating matchup for Tony Ferguson. But when I read the article, though, Georgia Cerrone's quotes, he's pretty spot on, and I agree with the things he's saying. He's actually acknowledging that the fight doesn't make sense for Ferguson, and you're right. Talking about stylistically, I get why he could say that. Cerrone does not watch very much tape, but since he did fight his buddy Orlando Venado, Ferguson did, he's familiar with that fight, and that was definitely kind of an off showing. Again, that was, what was it, the third, second, one of 4 times he was supposed to fight Khabib for that card. It got changed to Michael Chiesa. Michael Chiesa got injured. That was that UFC Sioux Falls card they threw on that random like Tuesday or Wednesday after that 3-fight stretch back in 2016 here, post UFC 200.
Great memory.
And so it's kind of a weird fight, and he gets rocked, and you know it's bad. It still looks bad when you go back and watch it, but there is an argument that Tony Ferguson makes, and it is true. His foot is actually on the logo, and the logos were slippery. There were fighters slipping that night, so you know, one of the knockdowns could be of the two could be attributed to that. But yeah, man, it's still a very dangerous fight. I don't like it on the short notice, kind of like what Cerrone was saying. And even though Ferguson is a cardio machine, Cerrone's a different type of cardio machine. He's not just a cardio machine. Like, he's the kind of guy that doesn't have to work hard for it. You know, we know how Cerrone is. He's not gaming us. We know his kind of prep. Not that it's bad prep. He's just a little more fast and loose is a very fair way to put it, right? He can kind of wake up in the morning off a cup of coffee, maybe not even have the cup of coffee, and he's going to be able to go those 5 rounds. So I feel him there, George, as far as the volume. But, man, you know, he's going to try to I think that skin's going to get tested. You know, Cerrone's got that older skin, and we see that Ferguson, man, with those elbows. You know, Josh Thompson, Anthony Pettis. You know, he swarmed. Those are 2 very good strikers, by the way. Some of the best kickers in the game, right? Josh Thompson stopping Nate Diaz. Pettis stopping everybody, including Cerrone himself. And what did he do? He was able to take their best shots and come forward. Now, that's going to cost you at some point. That's going to be kind of the caveat, which I'll include in the daily debate, is durability kind of has to go with the volume. If you want to be one of those people that let's just say if you're more of a volume guy in that equation. But, yeah, and Cerrone's not exactly a knockout puncher himself, but his punches have gotten heavier, and it's just that kick, you know. Ferguson does those little dips and twirls and stuff, and we see it, and they're fun, and he can turn those into defensive rolls, and he can do things with it. But you don't want to do that against Cerrone. Even Cerrone at his advanced age, he still gets that lead leg up so god dang quick. And I could see him icing Ferguson here. I'm not saying I'm picking Cerrone. Everybody knows I'm a huge Ferguson homer as far as this lightweight title picture goes. As far as he's my favorite fighter to break down in any division, guys. That being said, I'll just say I'm nervous for him heading into this fight, man.
All right. Well, after reading that, it just got me thinking, and I thought, well, I think this might be a good daily debate question. So let's hit that, and stepping in for goes, because as you normally hear this every day, it says the Garcia brothers is Dan Tom, 5'9", 170 pounds, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Being kind with the weight.
Hit it, Andre.
The brothers Garcia seemingly can't agree on anything.
Everybody knows it's duck season. Rabbit season. Duck season. Rabbit season.
Whether it's food,
Less filling. Tastes great. Less filling. Tastes great.
gambling,
Always bet on black.
I like red.
Black. Red. Black. Red. Black, dummy.
or even social media.
Instagram.
Snapchat.
Instagram.
Snapchat.
The same applies to the biggest stories in MMA. Time for MMA Junkie Radio's Daily Debate.
All right, here we go. Today's hashtag daily debate question for at MMA Junkie Radio. Which type of striker do you think is more effective? High volume or the one-punch KO artist? And I knew this would stimulate a little bit of comments, so let me read you a couple comments, and then, Dan, you can start things off. It's funny because Odyssey THFC, so that's at Odyssey THFC, says, how did Max Holloway's high volume work versus Dustin's power punches? You know, how'd that work out? The next guy, at the Shape 24Z, says, yeah, I guess it did nothing against Brian Ortega, Aldo twice, and Anthony Pettis. I mean, we have so many fights in the history of MMA that we can cite that nobody's right and nobody's wrong. No. So, again, the question is, what do you think is more effective? And I'd just like to hear some examples, and we'll just go back and forth. But how about you?
Great setup, George, especially with adding in those tweets. It's good context to kind of lay down because you're right. There's a lot of caveats either way. Fortunately for me, I guess I can rest on what I normally pick. Again, not just for staff picks, making picks in my own breakdowns. Been doing it for years. So I'll just go off that sample size to answer this question, sure, George. And usually it's tough. Again, usually if I'm presented with a knockout artist or a volume puncher, there's going to be certain caveats. I mean, I'm usually going to go with a more process-based individual. Now, that doesn't mean an opportunistic knockout puncher doesn't have process. Let's look at a Tyron Woodley, fueled by the game plans of Din Thomas. You're going to tell me that guy's knockouts were fluke? He's been doing it for how long? No, he's very skilled, one of the greatest fighters for a reason. But if we're going to stereotype, most of the time, process usually falls on the side of the guy with volume and pace, because he has a process, he has a plan, 2 Ps there, and a lot of times if they can get past that first round, if they're suited against the power guy, the question in mind here, let's just say, if they can get past that first round, I like that person's chances. So I'm going to go with a volume striker. I'm a fan of a lot of volume strikers like the Max Holloways of the world, for example, or even Tony Ferguson, as Donald Cerrone cited himself. So I'll go with that because I think that from the general population, the casual fans love the knockout, to even guys like Dana White. We look at the Contender Series, it's mostly those first round knockouts that are getting these guys in, and I would argue that as impressive as that is, it doesn't tell us a lot about the fighter. I like a guy that puts out a whole body of work for me to watch. Give me the volume striker.
All right. I like the one punch KO artist, but I guess I fanboyed out. Okay. So I just feel like I'm more on the edge of my seat. You can cut the tension in the arena more when those fights are going to happen because they lead to those highlight reel type KOs, whether it's somebody just getting kicked in the face or a punch or an elbow or whatever. I have tons of respect for the high volume, and I know that works. I think what's scary is for the high volume guy is facing a KO one punch artist who's got maturity, experience, and no ego. Yeah. So those young guys that come in on the scene, they just want to decapitate you. You can get past them if you got if on your side you're experienced and calm and you have good defense and you follow the game plan. But what I noticed was guys like Yoel Romero, he turned a corner. He noticed I can't go 25 minutes exploding with every single strike. And now he just he's kind of maybe boring at times. He'll go like 2-3 minutes at a time and there's not much going on. But then when he explodes, he can take you out now in round 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what I mean? So he's always in the fight. How about Derrick Lewis against Alexander Volkov? Yeah. He didn't have much left, but he had a big right hand, and he got it. And you saw, I think one time we broke down that it was a $1 million punch because he got the win bonus, the performance bonus. And he turned around right away and fought Daniel Cormier, and he got a raise and all this stuff. But again, these guys have had a ton of fights, not only in the UFC, just in their MMA career. So I think it's got to be the right KO artist. Otherwise, give me the volume puncher. But if it's the right KO artist, where you have some experience and they know how to manage that power, then I lean back to that guy. Conor McGregor said it against Nate Diaz, remember? He couldn't just throw super hard on every punch because otherwise the guy with the better cardio is going to get him. And
right.
I think he showed some maturity and wisdom there. But it was very, very complicated question in many ways. And again,
right.
it also begs, like a lot of the high volume guys, sometimes their defense isn't the greatest either, but some of them have great defense too. So you can't just be one of those guys that says, "Oh, I'm not scared to get hit. The more you hit me, the tougher I." Because it's 4-ounce gloves. Anything can happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you also have you have to have some of the fighters that are great defensively, and they have volume, but they also have defense.
Yeah, that's a caveat for the volume guys. You have to have durability. You make a good point. You got me there as far as I can't compare that as far as the knockout artists carrying a lot more anticipation. I can't say that for the volume guys. So you definitely got me there. Although I will say you're a gambler. Perhaps you guys are too. And volume guys as underdogs are really great because, again, if they can survive that storm, they can probably take that fight. And it provides a lot of live betting opportunities. But I think what we can all agree on is the best thing to happen. You gave great examples for the knockout punches with Derrick Lewis and the Conor McGregors. But when we get both these guys together, like Vicente Luque, power puncher, versus a volume guy like Brian Barberina, look at the magic those produces. I think that's the best combination.
Yeah, exactly. And also that first tweet about Dustin's power punches, the good thing about Dustin is he has both. Dustin will volume you as well.
Yeah, pressure.
But he also has power. You know what I mean?
Counter.
And there are some fighters that have a little bit of both.
Yes.
So they're not the hardest hitters ever, but they're enough to rock you. But they're also enough to be calm and experienced, and they're able to manage their energy. Dustin really tired out in that first round, when he went after Max.
Right.
But he's got great cardio, and he was able to get a second win, a third win, remain calm. There was a point when Max was turning it around and coming back.
Yep.
But Dustin had already damaged him and slowed him down. So I'm telling you, man, there is no right or wrong on this one for sure. It broke down to 64% agreed with you, Dan Tom, high volume. 36 agreed with me.
Wow.
One punch KO artist.
I thought it'd be the other way around.
Yeah, but like I say, you can cite so many examples in the history of this game, and that actually works a lot for the grappling game as well. There are some fighters that are just good at neutralizing in jiu-jitsu. That's more of an old school, I think, approach. But there was a lot of fighters that would just neutralize you and mitigate your the damage that you were throwing from on top.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, Maurice Smith versus Mark Coleman, you know what I mean? You hear one?
Yeah.
Like I say,
good reference there.
We can go on all day with this one. Anyway, thank you to all those that participated and left some comments, and we really appreciate you, Junkie Nation, the readers of the site, and the listeners of the show. All right, with that, we're going to go to our next break. You are listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 156. Let's talk about a possible injury out there that impacts 155 pounds. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Come on. Ha.
Good, you're still here. The boys were just getting warmed up. Now the real show begins. Take it away, boys.
All right, we're back on a Friday here. Excuse me. The MMA Junkie radio show. And I want to tell you guys about an injury that we saw on social media. Just want to make sure I don't choke. At the Notorious MMA. You guys know who that is, right?
What?
Conor McGregor. That's his Instagram handle. He put out a picture on Instagram. And this is what he wrote. Intense training and sparring sessions. I will always push it to the limits. This comes off and I push on. The proper dawn. Nothing will stop me. What comes off, George? Well, he's got like a little wrap. I can't tell if it's I guess it's a cast. On his left hand. And I don't think it sounds like a serious injury. He's not trying to hide anything. So the reason I guess I bring it up is because, A, he's a big name in the sport. If he posts something, man, there's millions of replies. But this might help out the whole Khabib-Dustin Poirier thing. If that's any, it's on the the thumb and the wrist.
Good point.
But if that's any, setback of about a month or so, then it could be the other guys will pretty much be cleared to do Abu Dhabi. Who knows, man? Because McGregor's, we link him to Gaethje one day, Cowboy the next day, the Cowboy Ferguson winner the next day, Khabib the next day, Poirier the next day, Floyd, Manny. I mean, you name it, he's linked. But he posted that, so for now, I guess we can all just chill out a little bit and leave that alone.
Now we just need George St. Pierre to post that his hand is hurt. Then we can actually maybe get some start getting some closure to this.
That'll revive that one, right?
Eventually, we'll get some closure to this lightweight division that's been just kind of a mess, man. It really hasn't had that set king. I would make that argument, and that's no disrespect to guys like Benson and Frankie, who were maybe the last of the more consistent guys. Mm-hmm. But even then, they were getting out of the skin of their teeth with decisions and whatnot, and anyways, don't get me started on that. But yeah, it's a good point, George.
It made me think: are there some volume punchers that they're so confident in their volume, but maybe I don't want to say it's low fight IQ, but they also put themselves in a position to get split decisioned and come out on the losing end? Would you say that volume punching there is one counter to, I guess, having that sort of a game plan? Is that you might lose close rounds, thereby losing a decision, thereby losing a title or a title opportunity. I guess there are a little bit more of those risks, right? I mean, there's the risk of the big one-punch knockout artist getting exhausted, but he can say, well, I went out on my shield, I left it all out there, I ran out of gas, but what do you want out of me? I'm jacked.
That's true, yeah. By nature, they're going to be in closer fights.
Remember how Nick Diaz, when he lost to Carlos Condit, I mean, he felt like, what the hell? Because cardio used to be his thing, but Condit was a cardio machine that night too.
Right. Yeah. No. Good example there. Yeah. Ben Anderson's just a weird guy to kind of measure too, because he was always in close. You could make the argument, his long hair made it look like the shots were hurting him more, but then you could also make it look like he was able to hide damage because he'd have his long hair and his really composed face, and he just wore damage really well. And you're like, am I hurting this guy?
Darker skin, less likely to cut.
Yeah. You never knew
or show damage.
Unless it was like the RDA fight where he got really cleanly clocked. Benson Henderson never looked like he's hurting in trouble, even in fights that he's losing. He just has that kind of, even when Thatch was closing in, Thatch is going to maul him as a welterweight, and the rounds that Thatch was getting the better of him, even then you're just like, it's not showing that he's hurt at least. This is one of those guys. It's so hard. I think educated people would have a tough time judging, giving a scorecard for those Benson Frankie fights.
Correct.
Screw that,
Yeah, that's a flip of the coin, it seems like. All right, speaking of fighters that will be out for a while, Alexander Volkanovski. So here's what happened. This was courtesy of ESPN. Sam Bruce wrote this, or a credit to him. Apparently, Volkanovski was on a trip from Brazil to Australia, and they actually made the plane land in Chile. I thought it was that was part of the leg, one of the legs of a layover or something like that.
I thought too.
But apparently they made him land, because once the plane took off, he said what he was feeling, the pain he was feeling in his foot was exasperated, and he started to get a little bit lightheaded, and because of that, they landed the plane in Chile. He said that if we had continued and gone towards Australia, he would have yelled, "Turn the plane around," because it was getting worse and worse and worse. So they're glad that they were able to land in Chile. Now, remember, when we first started talking about this, I had told you guys I happened to actually do that flight from Santiago, Chile to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It's about 5 hours. So it's not like a quick jump. It's not Vegas to LA or nothing like that. So he was in the air for 5 hours with, he said, 40-degree temperature. 40 degrees, I guess they use, the Celsius, we use the Fahrenheit, but in other words, he had an intense fever. And he, there was swelling and redness in his foot and his ankle. But once he started getting into the surge in the body temperature and the dizziness and everything, I mean, he got really, really scared. He was rushed to the hospital. But now what he says is this was a blood infection that he had, and the antibiotics didn't work at first. But he said that he felt like if the infection had, and this is one thing I didn't really understand, but if it had continued to spread, he could have maybe lost his foot.
Yeah, that's what I was hearing too.
Lost his leg.
Crazy.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Wow.
That I mean, just be glad we live in the times where we do now. I remember I toured the Jack Daniels distillery down in Lynchburg, Tennessee, and in it you
went there?
Yeah, you get to tour Jack Daniels' office, and in it they still have the safe that killed him. It didn't drop on him. It actually was a low safe on the ground, but he kicked it one day. He was really pissed, and he kicked it so hard he ended up just getting an infection off of the trauma from the foot, and then that spread, and that's what ended up getting him the gout and killed
How do you
Jack
get
Daniels.
a blood infection? I don't get that from a strike.
Yeah, I don't know what
That's what I'd like to know.
Would have? I mean, he must have kicked it hard. Maybe put maybe broke a toe, a bone went through. Back in those days, you probably just needed some type of wound, and then maybe the infection goes and gets in your system from there.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, even with today's medicine,
it's like the nasty mat or something, like John Jones's toe, for example.
Yeah.
They're sitting there interviewing when they should have basically been carding them off and cleaning that thing off.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean?
It's freak for sure, but I mean, and not beyond happening. But this scenario is crazy because we have today's medicine to combat things. But let's put him in a different scenario. Maybe he wasn't aware and he wasn't, because he kind of had an idea. I think he was communicating with some other fighters. I think or not, maybe not. He wasn't. I mean, I'm confusing him with Ricardo Lamas. I think Ricardo Lamas.
I was going to bring him up too,
right? Yeah, and he messaged somebody, but let's say he didn't. Volkanovski has no clue, and maybe it's an even longer flight, or he's deeper. He's on the Australia leg of the flight, right? And I don't know if he was flying one way or not, but I mean, yeah, it could have been real bad.
Well, I was going to actually reference that. I was going to say we're hearing about some of this stuff on international travel. Yes, Ricardo Lamas brought up that Clay Guida texted him and wanted to know about some symptoms or whatever. And, of course, Ricardo Lamas, he had a blood clot, and he fought with the blood clot, which is crazy. And he took a few months of going to the hospital before he was finally cleared. He'll be fighting in a couple weeks in Chicago. But, dude, that's scary, man. And all three of those were in South America.
Yeah, I was going to say that's another weird common thread. I mean, that's unfair to put that on South America.
Yeah,
that is where they all happened. Yeah,
but these fighters, I'm sure they go through some pre-fight medicals. But how thorough are they? I don't think it would hurt every fighter twice a year to go to the UFC PI and just get cleared of everything.
Oh yeah, totally.
Internally, not just hey, how fast can you run? How high can you jump? And how many times can you bench 225 pounds like they do in the NFL? I think the blood work is really, really important. But Volkanovski should be cleared to fight in time for the show in Sydney, Australia on October 6th. The stadium show headlined by Robert Whittaker and Israel Adesanya. And who knows, maybe if he catches some luck, he'll fight the winner of Frankie Edgar versus Max Holloway, because that fight's already set for UFC 240 on July 27th in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. All right, we are going to take a quick break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, channel 156. When we come back, old Colby's up to his antics again, out there stirring the pot. He had a meeting with Mr. Trump. We'll tell you about that when we come back.
Champions, Hall of Famers, legends, the very best coverage of the
and excitement in your Vitamix. Add ice, and you get MMA Junkie Radio.
All right. So, I was telling you that Colby Covington met up with Mr. Trump. That was a little tease, right?
Perfect song, by the way. Good choice there, Andre.
There's a lot of people saying, "No, man, I already know that President Trump is on his way to Japan. There's no way Colby Covington met up with him." But I could have taken it further and said he met up with Donald Trump. And I would not have been lying because I was talking about Donald Trump Jr. So Colby Covington, yeah, he bypassed the White House. Donald Trump's on his way to Japan. Colby Covington, however, he's in New York. In New York, it's a big week for the U.S. Navy. It's called Fleet Week. And Covington has been spending some time there with U.S. Navy officers and Marines. However, he was in the Big Apple, and he went to visit Donald Trump's sons, Donald Jr. and Eric, at the Trump Tower. Took a picture. Trump Jr. is holding the belt. And, of course, that just gets people wound up.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to basically – I haven't even looked at the comments, honestly, because I know right away people are going to be saying America, hashtag. And then the other half is going to be saying, what the fuck, the wall, I didn't even want to get involved. But you can't blame Colby, excuse me. He always sports the red hat. He cozies up to the Trumps. He's always got the belt. I mean, he keeps himself relevant like a mofo. His fight versus Kamaru Usman is still not even booked, but yet Colby Covington's name pops up at least once every 2 weeks, and whatever's around it just kind of takes off.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to raise some ire for sure, especially the red hat. That's even us who can be accused of being Colby Covington defenders, sympathizers, whatever thing you want to put. I get it, but that aside, and our admitted bias, I think an important part of this, obviously that's very inflammatory with the Donald Trump Jr. That's going to spark comments, like George said. But a thing to keep in mind, whether you like Colby or not, and we're not just saying this because we've had a history, of him being on the show or military trips, speaking of, or anything like that. We come clean with that, folks. But something that should be noted that doesn't really get the press, because again, it's always the bad stuff that gets the press, right? It's never the good stuff. Is that this is coming out of Colby's dime, and this isn't any surprise to us or to you yourself, George. I mean, you talked to Colby about military trips after helping give him a taste of military trips, as you guys all, of course, do on this show all the time with fighters and whatnot. But that seemed to really stick with them, and I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, George. Hopefully, I'm not peeling back the curtain too much, but. Like he's talked to us, and I believe he's asked you about wanting to go back and doing these things, and he's followed through. When you look back at the last couple of years now, he's been doing this.
Correct.
Out of his own pocket.
Every fighter has always left a certain quote with me when we've gone on the military trips that stands out. And for Colby, it was, "Man, I feed off the energy off these soldiers." And before he went down to, sorry, he went with us. Dan, you were on that trip.
Yep.
September of 2017. We went to Fort Eustis and Langley Air Base. He was in camp for Damian Maia.
Yeah.
That one got sprung on him at the last minute. But he said, "I gave you my word, so I want to go." However, about a year ago, he went back to Fort Eustis on his own dime. He just said, "Man, I need to feel that energy." It was prior to, was it not September? But I know it was prior to one of his fights. And he just said that he got a lot of energy from that trip. And he's a big military guy. He's got family that served. And he just wanted to go back. He really connected with that base because he lives in Florida. I'm sure there's plenty of bases in Florida where he could have stopped by and maybe done an appearance or just visited. But it was something about Fort Eustis. And so he went back and spent a day there. Another thing that happened to Colby Covington that a lot of people don't know, on that trip, if you'll recall, I just don't remember the name of the hurricane. But do you remember the hurricane? Was it Marie or something like that?
Yeah,
that came storming through.
Yep.
And do you remember even reading American Top Team got shut down and all that? So he couldn't fly home. And that's when I wrecked my knee. So I got out just in time. Everybody flew home just in time. Colby wasn't able to because that's a part of the country that was just ravaged by that storm, that hurricane. And he actually had to spend like 2 or 3 extra days there. And it could be that in that time he just connected even more. Apparently they took him to a couple gyms. People were holding bags for him. People were giving him some rolls. People were giving him some rounds. So it was a little extra special for him because I guess you could say maybe a week of his camp was there. You know what I mean? And that's why he wanted to go back. And as far as the Navy, we have a connection there in the Navy who I'm sure probably was able to maybe facilitate him there, going there. And but I'm not sure. I mean, I remember hearing about Fleet Week before.
Yeah.
But I know that Colby's told us that he has a friend who knows the Trumps, and so that's why he was able to have like that type of access and make this happen. You know what I mean? But he's been a vocal supporter of Donald Trump. But you know what? Just let's have some fun. I'm going to read 5 comments.
All right, let's do it.
How do you think it's going to go? I'm going to keep a score here.
All right, yeah, that's prediction.
On one side, I'm going to write just L for left and R for right. Simple as that, right? Left, right.
Prediction and what we're going to see.
Blue, red. Yeah, what do you think the score is going to be? What's your prediction?
I think we're only going to see one for America.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think the other 4
so
are going to be
4-1?
anti. Yeah, I think no matter which order you pull,
I'll go with
3 top 5 right at random.
I'll go with 3-2 Republicans.
Okay. All right.
You're going to go with 4-1 the left.
All right,
the Democrats. All right, in order. Well, the first one was his manager, Dan Lambert. Very cool. So score 1 for the right.
All right.
The next one's Nubian_bookstore. You know who that is? It's Marcus from Atlanta.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He writes, "This is the type of stuff at Dana White and at the UFC should be recording to use as promo for Colby Covington." It's a positive.
Oh, shit. Okay, I'm already lost.
Positive message.
All right. That'll count for it, right?
Yeah, so.
Thanks, Andre.
The next one says, "Dan, how much longer can Marty Snoozman duck Colby? Is he popped by USADA? Why so much silence on the fight?" So another one for the right.
Whoa.
Wow, where are the attackers? The next one's from Nubian Bookstore, but he kind of says the same thing, so I'm going to skip him. The next one's Toby Covington, champ. "Oh, there's buzz, a lot more than any Usman has had. Any Usman fight has ever had, that's for sure." Should I skip that one? It's got Covington in the name. It sounds like a
troll account.
A relative. So the next one says, "1 Southern born." Oh, I wonder which side that's going to lean on. "Remember left wing Holly weird freaks now own the UFC. Most of them hate Trump. That has a lot to do with it. Left wingers are mentally ill and will cut off their nose to spite their fate." Wow, doesn't get any more right side than that.
I got this wrong, man.
Might be a sweep. One more.
Jeez.
One more. The next one is from Peon Jr. Peon_Jr. "Dan, you're very cool, and I sincerely mean that." He's trying to kiss up to Dan Lambert. That has nothing to do with it. But the next one comes in from Cameron Haynes. And it's got
Cameron, yes.
a bicep flex, an American flag, and a hammer. So
Keep hammering.
It's a sweep for the right side.
Yeah.
I thought this guy was going to get crushed with hate. There was no hate.
Surprised Cameron Haynes didn't comment and talk about bow hunting.
Yeah, you got to actually scroll a little bit before you find anybody. Oh, here it is. The first one. Leonidas199X on Instagram. He says, "Is he showing you," because Donald Trump Jr. is holding a thumbs up. He says, "Is he showing you the thumb he put inside you?"
Jesus Christ. You know, it's funny. My buddy did the classic jiu-jitsu picture, where the fighters, they take a picture next to each other, and they all do the thing where they point at each other, right?
Yeah.
It's either the fists or they point like, "This guy's the man." No, this guy's the man.
Right.
And my buddy was doing it, but his pointing finger was kind of going low, like toward the guy's crotch, like kind of inadvertently. And I went to type, I don't want to be that guy. I'm like, "Hey, where are you pointing?" Like,
yeah.
but oh my goodness! Wow, I got that wrong. Man, I was way off.
So was I. I had 3-2. I didn't think it was going to be a clean sweep.
Maybe there's more right wingers on Instagram and less on Twitter, because I just look at Twitter feed and I feel like it's mainly more left leaning. People coming at the Greg Hardys or the Colby Covingtons of the world, or the very different people there. But
the other day, Danny Castillo put up something. Let me see if I have enough time. I think.
Sure.
Danny Castillo on Twitter. And I usually don't chime in, but I figured, I was kind of bored. He said, "I just wish the culture of our MMA fan base would change for the better. This sport's tough enough." Hold on a second, let me click this.
Yeah, I'm familiar with what you're saying. I saw that too.
Where is it here?
And I believe it was in response to something, right?
Was it a response? Or was it an organic tweet from him?
Something came up that I saw later. It sounded like it could very well have been. It's a very evergreen message that he's sending. Mm-hmm. But I saw something after that I'm like, that probably sparked that.
"I just wish the culture of our MMA fan base would change for the better. This sport's tough enough." So I'm sure maybe one of his boys lost recently, and they're attacking that guy or gal or whoever.
Yeah.
I told him, and I've told this to many, like Buckholz, Castillo, Matt Brown, please don't. You can't tell someone not to post. You're taking away their free speech. But what I don't want them to do is jump to the conclusion that the one fan that they read is a representation of all MMA fans.
Right.
Like I said, what you're reading is anywhere from 1 to 10% of how that fan really feels towards the fighter. A lot of it's just for the attention or whatever. Now, 1% of that 1 to 10% really have just a big hole in their heart, hatred. Yeah. And so they'll say anything to take you down. It's it's jealousy or whatever, insecurities. And the rest will go, I was just kidding. I'm actually a big fan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the large majority of MMA fans are awesome. But I feel like sometimes when the fighters do this, it gives attention to those bad people.
Agree.
All right, folks. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the World MMA Awards. Go to worldmmaawards.com. And Dan, Tom, and I are going to go over some of the categories there, including Best Media Source and Best Journalist, which has some junkie love. 60-second break. We'll be right back.
5.
Good, you're still here. The boys were just getting warmed up. Now the real show begins. Take it away, boys.
All right, folks. If you go to www.worldmmaawards.com, you can follow along. I say that because some of you may be in your car now, but if you ever circle back to the fabulous SiriusXM app, you can listen to this show and all the shows on this channel, Fight Nation Channel 156, using our on-demand feature, commercial-free and in HD quality. So you can circle back and maybe follow along with us a little bit more carefully, or maybe go in and do some of your voting. So what we're doing is the World MMA Awards is the fights and fighters and different categories we're going to go over. This is for 2018. The World MMA Awards is coming up during International Fight Week of this year. And this is, I believe, the 10th annual, the 11th annual? I forget what they're up to. But I like the event. I've been to like 8 or 9 of them. I know I had to miss one because of a trip to Japan. For the most part, I think I've caught all of them. And we've been lucky as a website to win the award for Best Media Source 5 times. So we do our best not to go overboard, but it means a lot. If you love voting, in any sport, especially in our sport, this is the big award show of the year. If you go to www.worldmmaawards.com, you can vote right now on many different categories like Fighter of the Year, Female Fighter of the Year, Breakthrough Fighter of the Year, International Fighter of the Year, Fight of the Year, Knockout of the Year, Submission of the Year, Comeback of the Year, Upset of the Year, Coach of the Year, Trainer of the Year, Gym of the Year, Referee, I don't have to say of the year anymore. I think you all get it. Ring Card Girl, Leading Man, Best Promotion, Personality, Analyst, Best MMA Programming, Media Source, Journalist, Clothing and Equipment Brand, and that's it. It's so easy to vote. It only takes you 2 minutes, tops. 10 if you think about it. But I think by now you have your favorites. You know what clothing and equipment you buy. You know which websites you tend to visit, or which journalists you tend to follow, or which analysts entertain you and inform you the most, and which ring card girl you get excited about, or referee, which one you least likely say, oh man, what were you thinking? Because they're all great and they all 99% of the time perform, but I think the big highlight, the big spotlight on the referee is when they mess up. Gym of the year, trainer of the year, all that. It's fun.
They have
man.
Herzog as referee in there?
Herzog? No.
Man.
I was disappointed in that.
Yeah, I know it's easy to complain, but I really there's some ones that just really surprised me on this one. Some of these categories.
So Dan, you're here twice a week. I know
Sure.
you missed out on some of the conversation for this. Have you been on any of the conversations? I think we've done like 3 shows where we pick like 2 categories and just blast through.
No, I don't think I have. Yeah,
so let's do some, man. We have some time here
it.
to relax
All right.
and chill here. And if you want to chime in, you can call in 877-FIGHT-93, 877-344-4893, and tell us if you agree with us or disagree or whatever. So, Dan, I already went over a couple of these, but unless I change my mind, I kind of know mine already. But who's your fighter of the year for 2018? Let me see that battery.
As far as these selections
go.
go.
Yeah, I guess I got to give you the picks.
Okay.
Khabib Nurmagomedov, Gegard Mousasi, Dustin Poirier, Daniel Cormier, or Aung Lasang from One Championship. I
got to go with Dustin Poirier. I mean, he's part of my favorite fight from last year, the Justin Gaethje fight that headlined Fox. He's just a fighter's fighter doing the dang thing in the division that I love.
You're not considering the win over Max Holloway, right? Because that was this year.
No.
Okay, so you're basing it on 2018.
Yeah, 2018.
Okay.
Give me Dustin Poirier for that.
All right. Female fighter of the year. I think I said Khabib. I know Cormier won the heavyweight title. Or I may have said Cormier. I'll go back. I'll go back. Okay. Female fighter of the year. Let's just concentrate on you.
Okay.
Valentina Shevchenko, Tatiana Suarez, Jessica Andrade, and again, she won her title this year, Ilima Lay McFarlane, or Amanda Nunes.
Man, it's tough not to go with Amanda Nunes being the first female double champ, but I got to say a real close second, Ilima Lay McFarlane, because she had such a strong close to the year as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, man. Nunes is a champ.
Yeah.
And she took out, I think all the female fighters have always said, wow, Chris is the GOAT.
Yep.
All the champions, they point to Chris as the GOAT, and Amanda Nunes beat her late last year, so that win qualifies. I'd be shocked if she didn't take it. All right. Breakthrough fighter of the year: Thiago Santos, Israel Adesanya, Anthony Smith, AJ McKee, Aaron Pico.
Ooh. You can't really not go with Israel Adesanya. I mean, that was such a strong year. Especially how he ended 2017 calling his shot, in the studio and went and did it.
Mm-hmm. He had 6 fights in like 16 months. Couple of those fights were in 2019, but his 2018 was 4-0. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
International fighter of the year: Khabib Nurmagomedov, Kamaru Usman, Israel Adesanya, Gegard Mousasi, Aung Lasang from One Championship. Aung Lasang, by the way, is a champ as well.
I'd love to give Asia some love, and it's always nice to see the Asian market doing something. It's been hit and miss with their market to their fighters, but you don't often hear from Africa being a force or a continent. South Africa's got a bit of a scene, but didn't really produce the strongest talent. Guys like Ruan Potts, but actually having guys with African roots who care about the community and want to give back. It's got to be between Usman and Adesanya. So since we gave Adesanya breakthrough, let's go with Kamaru Usman, man, the Nigerian nightmare.
Okay. Fight of the year. Now this is where you're going to excel because you remember all these to a T. Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero 2 at UFC 225. Thiago Santos versus Jimmy Manuwa, UFC 231. Douglas Lima versus Roy McDonald, Bellator 192. Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje, UFC on Fox 29. Tony Ferguson versus Anthony Pettis, UFC 229.
Well, Santos versus Manuwa was my round of the year for MMA Junkie. That was one I was in charge of. I voted for that. And Whittaker Romero, that's one of my favorite fights. Their first fight got my fight of the year for the year before. It was close this year, but again, like I said before, I had to stick with my guns there. With Poirier Gaethje on that Fox card, that was just insane.
Okay. Did you see, was Whittaker Romero have a little bit of our daily debate? Was it volume versus power in that fight for you? Did you see a lot of that in that one?
Yeah, I mean,
not to say Whitaker doesn't have power.
As far as the scoring too, that's kind of how it shook down. That was the debate on the scoring, right?
Yeah. Whereas Santos and Manuel, they both had power.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff there. Knockout of the year: Yair Rodriguez versus Chan Sung Jung. Chris Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes. I guess it should really say Amanda Nunes versus Chris Cyborg. You might as well put the actual KO artist first, but whatever. Or maybe that's the way the fight card was listed. Sorry. Mandel Nalo versus Carrington Banks, Bellator 207. Vitor Belfort versus Lyoto Machida, UFC 224. Brian Ortega versus Frankie Edgar, UFC 222.
Yeah, it's kind of hard not to go with Chan Sung Jung there. I just referenced that knockout, too, because what I love about the knockout, not just because it was the elbow and Yair pulls it out from the depths of possibly losing the fight and all that good stuff, but very few knockouts are like, I like animated like shows like Family Guy or The Simpsons, because when they show like a guy getting knocked out, there's always that rogue arm that's like behind their back in a weird position, like kind of like how Michael J. Fox sleeps in Back to the Future. Like that's always extra, like of a visual, like oh man. And Korean Zombie's arm was like that, and I referenced that to actually on a podcast earlier, because Christian Moorcraft actually kind of falls a similar way with his arm behind his back when Stefan Struve put him away at UFC 117. So yeah, give me Rodriguez versus Chan Sung Jung.
You know, I'm glad I'm going to read this off right now because it's going to maybe change my opinion.
Okay.
I also said the Yair Chan Sung Jung fight produced the knockout of the year because I just felt like the knockout was so unique. But here's the definition they're looking for. It doesn't mean you need to interpret it this way, Junkie Nation. A lot of people just read the headline and go, oh, wow, okay, it's this. Here's what they said. It's sponsored by Celicor. Awarded to the fighter who scores the most sensational knockout victory. What I was carrying a little bit was the magnitude of the KO.
Yeah.
So I actually may have said Amanda Nunes because she became champ and she beat the indestructible Chris Cyborg.
Emphatic.
But in thinking about it, that inverted elbow, whatever you call it, was goddamn, it was unique as you can get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was on the money. And I don't know that I've ever seen that
I don't know if
or
we're gonna
will
see it
see that. And to see it, well, again, now I'm going over the line of what the definition is. He was going to lose the fight.
Yeah.
You know, Korean Zombie was on his way to winning the fight. Yair was going to lose it on the scorecard. So it got him the win, got him his win bonus. It may get him this award or whatever. But the actual definition is the most sensational knockout victory. That might be it, man.
That was one of my favorite bet cashing stories too, because I think I had all my plays tied into either like one was Korean Zombie, but I had two parlays tied to fight doesn't go the distance. So I was like, come on, finish him. And if you remember, there were parts where they were actually staring at each other, and people were getting frustrated. Like, what do they keep high-fiving each other and staring? They kept doing that thing that annoys a lot of people, rightfully so. And it was one of those things where we've all been there. You make a bet, you're like, I've already lost. Like, the fight's not over, but you're like, the guy's been wrestled for 3 rounds. You're like, I know how this last minute's going to go. Let me just go to the fridge. And you've done that, right,
Oh,
George?
hell yeah.
And I was just totally like, I know how this is going to go. I've already lost my bet. And as I turn, I see to the corner of my eye, and I look, and all of a sudden he's just down and he's deadened on the mat. Korean Zombie. I'm like, what just happened? Did I just cash my bet?
And that was at 5,000 feet altitude, wasn't it?
Yeah, buzzer beater. That's right.
Wow, that's crazy. All right, submission of the year. So I think I'm best off reading the actual definition that
all right,
World MMA Awards is going with. Awarded to the fighter who scores the most technical and exceptional submission victory. All right. Tyson Pedro versus Saperbek Safarov, UFC 221. Donald Cerrone versus Mike Perry, UFC Fight Night 139. I was going to say, all I could remember was Donald Cerrone and that mean face he was making, that grimace, twerking that arm. Zabit Magomed Sharapov versus Brandon Davis. Oh, to UFC 220. I was just about to say, wasn't there another one on that card? Yeah, there it is. Aljamain Sterling versus Cody Stamann, UFC 228. Ryan Hall versus BJ Penn, UFC 232. So we actually have 3 leg locks. Okay. Which one did you like the most, Anton? What got your vote? What's going to get your vote?
I can't think of anything better off the top of my head, but I don't like these selections. And they're all, not that they're not worthy, but it's like you put 2 of them in there. It's like, can I pick the 2, Zabit and Aljamain? Because it's like you either pick both those or none of them, I feel like, right? But you can't do that. Ryan Hall submitting BJ Penn, I guess it was impressive, but it's not like it's BJ Penn today. I mean, this guy shouldn't be fighting in there. So that really doesn't do much for me. Cerrone's probably just because of the moment after with the baby, but really the submission itself, submitting a guy like Mike Perry, no offense to Mike Perry. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like the craziest thing. Cerrone, we've all known, we can't really say he's got an underrated guard. We've all known the guy's got crazy good submissions. And Tyson Pedro versus Saparov, that's just kind of a random one. I don't know why they even threw that in there.
Is there one you can think of that you would have put in there?
Man, I feel like even just I don't know why I keep thinking of Yuri Alcantara, Corey Sandhagen. That armbar didn't happen, but man, that made me cringe. The armbar he had Corey Sandhagen in.
Was that 2018?
Yeah, that was 2018. Yep. As far as submissions going off the top of my head, I can't think. That's why I didn't want to critique too hard.
It's got to be one of these two, right?
I guess so.
UFC 228,
I'm just going to go Donald Cerrone, actually.
You are? Okay.
Because of the moment and more so. But
all right. Comeback of the year awarded to the fighter who has managed to completely turn circumstances around, whether that be with his entire career or in a single moment of success. Claudio Silva versus Nordine Taleb, UFC Fight Night 130. Tony Ferguson, coming back from injury. Paul Craig versus Magomed Ankalaev, UFC Fight Night 127. Derrick Lewis versus Alexander Volkov, UFC 229. Angela Lee.
Would love to give love to Angela Lee, but I got to go with a Scotsman, Paul Craig.
Remind me what happened in that one.
Magomed Ankalaev was like a -800 favorite just to roll him. He was one of what's that name? Kadarov's guys. Like he was the biggest favorite on the card. He was one of Kadarov's the dictator guys, like special team dude, had all the hype, and he's really good. Heavy hands. He looks like Steve. This guy looks like Magomed Ankalaev looks like Stipe Miocic if you try to disguise him as a Dagestani. Like if you go to UFC.com and look up Magomed Ankalaev, it looks like Stipe Miocic, and they taped on the Abe Lincoln beard. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what this guy looks like, and he's just smashing Paul Craig for literally the whole fight. And I don't know if he got caught sleeping, but it's literally at the last second. It's tied for the latest stoppage now. Paul Craig at the very last second buzzer beater into the third round just grabs a triangle and gets him to tap. The guy could have just gone out. Probably could have gone out and wasn't even like. I don't even think he was close to going out. Like he could have just not tapped, and I don't think he realized what the time was. By the time
they separated him, everybody would have thought he was just woozy, but not.
Yeah, he wasn't even woozy to that point.
Wow.
Like he tapped, and then I think he realized how much time he had to wait, and you could just see the disappointment. Like that guy was. No, his homeboys weren't buying him beers that night, probably.
I'm going with Derrick Lewis. I mean, I think it was in the last 10 seconds of round 3. He had lost the first 2 rounds, and
the commentary called it,
this
too. That was
fight,
great commentary.
Just, I knew Lewis had a shot because he's got that powerful right hand, but he literally waited till the very end, and it was a $1 million punch for him, and it got him a ticket to the fight versus Daniel Cormier.
Man.
Upset of the year, awarded to the fighter who has overcome overwhelming odds to claim victory against the more favored athlete. Khalil Roundtree versus Gokhan Saki, UFC 226. Alexander Hernandez versus Beneil Dariush, UFC 222. Ray Cooper versus Jake Shields, PFL Playoffs 2018. See, I would have gone with the first one. I think the upset was bigger the first time.
Right.
Amanda Nunes versus Chris Cyborg, UFC 232. Henry Cejudo versus Demetrius Johnson, UFC 227. Goes and I did this yesterday. I'll tell you who I did.
Okay.
I did Cejudo because I thought Cejudo, he had already lost to Demetrius. He lost to him in 1 round. Demetrius was, pound for pound, the best athlete ever walking into this fight with 11 title defenses. And you felt like the further the fight went, the more was in Demetrius' favor.
Right.
I understand what Goza's point was, especially because Roundtree, it's not like he submitted the kickboxing legend in Gokhan Saki. He actually knocked him out.
That was
and I started to lean towards what Goz said, you have a point. Okay, I get it. Nunes over Cyborg, that's almost in every category, man. That was just a tremendous win for her. But, Dan, what's your opinion?
I'm going to look up the odds right now because I was leaning toward where Goz was leaning as well. And I could totally see your side of it as well, by the way. But I was actually looking at Ray Cooper versus Jake Shields because Ray Cooper, you know how big of an underdog he was, George? Do you want to guess?
For the playoffs?
For the first fight, that first fight against Jake Shields, I'm sure that's what they're talking about.
I don't know, but I imagine just here's the story on Jake Shields. He pretty much beats everyone except the iconic welterweights or middleweights.
Right.
I mean, that said, I know he's beaten Dan Henderson, but he just came up short in the UFC. But other than that, he held a Cejudo belt, a Rumble on the Rock belt, a Strikeforce belt, and did he hold the Icon belt? No, the Elite XC.
Yeah.
He has like 5 major belts.
Yeah.
He's a stud. He just came up short in the UFC. He fought GSP in a stadium match in Toronto. I think it was UFC 129. I mean, he's beaten some good fighters. Tyron Woodley, along the way. Martin Kamen, Carlos Condit.
You got to guess how big of an underdog he was to Jake Shields, though.
How big?
Plus 800.
Ray Cooper?
Yep.
Wow.
And Khalil Roundtree, you know how big of an underdog he was to, and I agree with Goz's point, and that's where I was initially leaning.
Yeah.
But this is why I'll change it too, because it was true. He's right. He beat him in striking, but Khalil Roundtree was only a plus 125 dog, which makes sense. It's an MMA,
Because you're factoring in that the more well-rounded skill set.
We've seen kickboxers upset in the sport before.
Right.
He's not the first, right? Even though Gokhan Saki is definitely a name. So I'll actually go Ray Cooper, Jake Shields, based on the odds.
Okay. All right. Next one. Shawn Tompkins, Coach of the Year.
Love the title of that one.
Awarded to the most successful coach working in top-level mixed martial arts. Here are your choices. Dean Thomas. I'm going to tell you the coach and then a big name that they work with because I'm not going to name off all their athletes. Dean Thomas, Tyron Woodley. For Asahabi, Roy McDonald. I would say GSP, but he's retired.
Hello.
Mike Brown, Dustin Poirier. And Amanda Nunes. Oh, no, she's more with Conan, right?
Yeah.
All right. Trevor Whitman, Joanna. Javier Mendez, DC, Habib.
Trevor, Joanna? I mean, Rose. You mean Rose?
What did I say?
Joanna.
Yeah. Rose. Sorry.
They went to bed with Joanna enough times.
I was gonna say Mike Brown. It's not Nunes. It's Joanna. But I go, well, I'm only gonna say one, and then in the end I threw 2 anyway. For Coach Javier. But
I see that.
I guess I gave away mine. I feel like DC beat Stipe. That was a huge win, and then Habib just had a tremendous year. So I went with Javier. How about you?
I remember you going with Javier, and that's not a bad choice. I like to give credit to the guys who don't get that much credit. And that's going to be for sure Mike Brown. He didn't get that much credit as a champion, and hopefully he starts to get more credit as a coach because the guy was great at both.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Next one, Trainer of the Year. Awarded to the most successful specialist trainer, for example, strength and conditioning, nutritionist, mind coach, operating in mixed martial arts. Michelle Ingalls, Sam Calvita, George Lockhart, Nick Curson, Phil Daru.
I'm a big fan of Nick Curson. He works with RDA, for people that don't know. RDA probably could put good next to his name. I mean, I know they're talking about the breakdown of strength and conditioning. Kevin Lee hooked up with Sam Calvita, who's on this list, and was saying that RDA couldn't cut it, so he stuck with Nick Curson. And, RDA ended up having a bit of better cardio on the night, which was,
Say that one more time. What was that story?
Kevin Lee in an interview, he was saying that it was explaining the work with Sam Calvita, and in the interview he was actually explaining, Sam told me that RDA actually sought his help a couple camps ago, but I guess he couldn't cut it. And Kevin was actually trying to be nice, and he was talking trash, but not trying to talk. But he wasn't trying to air out business, so to speak. But reading between the lines, he was pretty much saying RDA wasn't able to cut it in the strength and conditioning program he was coming into, which is probably why he was so confident. Whereas he stuck with Nick Curson. And Nick Curson, the reason why I like him is because he studied off of the Marinovich brothers, who got BJ Penn in his greatest shape. We're just talking about the last kind of steady lightweight king when there was some stableness to the division, and that was a Marinovich-trained BJ Penn. So it kind of was cool that a later lightweight champion, who was one of the more stable ones that brought stability to that division in that argument, which was RDA, worked with kind of the second generation of those strength and conditioning coaches. Because, of course, Marinovich is, football. They're in their, they're in their 70s by this point. Nick Curson's still very active working with fighters, so he got my vote.
All right, I'm going to go with Sam Calvita. I know that there's going to be a lot attached to him because of TJ Dillashaw. The more I've read about TJ Dillashaw and USADA has cleared him of a lot of fights prior to the one in 2019, so I want to be technical. And Sam Calvita's already put out a statement that that's just something that they do not believe in one bit. They're going to stand by their guy. but no way. But Sam Calvita also works with the Aaron Picos of the world, Juan Archuleta, Kevin Lee, Lance Palmer. You know, like he does have a lot of athletes aside from TJ Dillashaw. Yeah. And they all rave about just how technical he is and on the cusp of, you know, like some of the latest in technology and beliefs and studies of the human anatomy. So he gets my vote. All right, Gym of the Year, awarded to the gym that has not only enjoyed great success inside the octagon, but also helped to develop the sport outside of the elite level. So what that means is don't just focus on the fact that, you know, they got a UFC champion. I mean, if they're fucking killing it and they're 18-2 on the regional, then they're doing well. So here are your choices. Factory X, that's Mark Montoya's gym. City Kickboxing, that's the gym that's produced Israel Adesanya. The MMA Lab, that is John Crouch with Benson Henderson. You've seen Benson Henderson in a lot of corners.
Yeah, oh yeah.
American Top Team, Mike Brown, Conan Silveira is their head coach, and a.k.a. Javier Mendez. We just mentioned that earlier, along with Crazy Bob Cook. All right, Dan Tom, who...
somewhat easy one.
It's got to be a tough one for you, huh?
Somewhat easy one for me. Cause
again,
I don't like giving credit to the people who are always getting credit. Why do you need me to give credit for the people that, you know, whether they have the money, the athletes, everything on their side? Like, and I'm not hating, but let's be honest. Like, would it be a surprise if I said ATT? Would I be blowing your hair back by saying AKA is a great gym? You never heard that before. But one gym that you don't hear about, and I've been consistent about on this show, so have you guys, giving Factory X and Mark Montoya a lot of love, and it's deserved love. City Kickboxing has a great argument. That's why I said somewhat hard of a choice, because they have a great argument. Israel Adesanya, even guys like upping their games like Dan Hooker, or taking on guys like Volkanovski, who just continues to roll, right? But no, give me Factory X. Mark Montoya seems like he has a real connection with his fighters, a real care. I love the corner work he does. And they're just doing good things, from Ian Heinisch, who we recently had on the show, to others. So,
okay, Factory X for you. That's a tough one for me. It's down to Factory X for me, and I was leaning towards AKA, but
I mean, the titles are definitely AKA and ATT.
Past the titles, you're right. AKA, you know, I haven't followed much what they have done in California. California has a huge, you know, amount of amateur and professional shows, but I haven't followed it closely. So who knows? Maybe they're killing it there. Who knows? You know, I know City Kickboxing has done very well for themselves. The Lab produces a lot of them.
Underrated. John Crouch is one of our favorite coaches. He's really just great dude.
Yeah, I would say that out of all of them, the Factory X gym for sure. I kind of like how their coaches, their athletes, talk about the coach and how he is more than a coach. You know what I mean? He's more like a captain of the ship who guides you. In other words, like, this isn't just how you are or how you tend to the sail or whatever. I mean, he actually reminds me of Phil Jackson, where Phil Jackson would pull his superstars to the side and say, read this book. You know, and in The Art of War, you know, whatever.
The Zen Master.
Yeah, exactly. He kind of would just give you, he would open your mind up a little bit. And mentally he would assist you so that you could perform on, you know, the game that you were playing, the fight that you're in, or whatever. And I feel like Mark Montoya has a little bit of that. They all have the X's and O's capability, but Mark Montoya seems to connect in a different way. All right, let's go one more, and then we got to take a break.
Sounds good.
Referee of the Year. I'm going to be mad here.
I know. Me and you
Awarded
both.
to the most efficient and consistent official in mixed martial arts. Here are your choices: Josh Rosenthal, Dan Mergliata, Mike Beltran, Herb Dean, and Mark Goddard. Where is Jason Herzog?
Yeah, that's my vote right there, Jason Herzog. He's just.
We need a write-in candidate.
He's just awesome. I didn't realize he was attached to one of my favorite fights, favorite female fights too, as well, and he just provided a good stoppage there. I was just watching that today. Herzog, I almost want to give an honorable just for Josh Rosenthal, because he's got the kind of comeback story.
He does,
but he hasn't had a lot of cage time yet for me to feel like I can justify it. I'm big fans of, you know, Herb Dean and
me too.
And Mark Liotta is a nice guy, and I actually respect Mark Goddard and will defend him for the reasons why people usually dislike how he carries himself. I actually defend it, although, you know, he's not beyond, like, just like Herb, they're not beyond their questionable call. So I'm going to go with Mike Beltran. You know, he's really stepped up his game, and I was really impressed the job he did in Bellator Hawaii. He called, of course, the main event between Alima Lane McFarland and Valerie Letourneau. You know, he's a very intense guy. But he's got the big warlock. Looks like he's like for the horde, kind of like a Warcraft dude. But he was like apparently like an undercover cop, like under drug, doing drug busts and stuff back in the day. Like, the dude's legit. He's really. I really like watching Mike Beltran work.
Yeah, Dan, Mike, Herb, and Mark Goddard are all beasts.
Yeah.
And they all ref so much. Like I say, there's just a huge spotlight on them when they do something that's questionable. But I swear, I just can't think. Herzog hasn't had his flub yet, has he? When we come in on a Monday, and go, what was he thinking?
No, not huge.
He hasn't had that yet, right?
Yeah, no, he's always been pretty good about those.
But look, these are all outstanding. Right? I think I'm going to go with Herb. You know what I like about Herb is he usually gives good. Like the mic captures it. Him and Mark, they're pretty vocal in their explaining. And another thing I like is they're big believers in the fact that, eye pokes, nut shots. We feel like they both should get the 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you don't get them with the eye pokes. But I like the way they're able to manage and calm down the situation, cool things off, talk to the fighter slowly, make sure that the offensive party knows to stay in a neutral corner and that they shouldn't be any instruction. And he slows it down and thereby soaks up 60 to 90 seconds. So that the fighter that's wincing or trying to clear their ear is able to do it.
Yeah.
And then he'll go, I'll tell you what, why don't we get the doctor in here? Then the doctor waltzes in.
Yep.
So they've managed to find ways to help
McCarthy's
the fighter
the best
out.
at that, by the way.
McCarthy, yeah. But so he's been retired, but
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But I love the way they've been able to do that. I love the way they communicate and say, listen, I didn't think it was intentional, but I'm bringing you back to a certain position, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether or not I think I'm thinking of stopping the fight or not. I love that communication, and Herb Dean is awesome at it. So I'm going to go with him on that one.
All right.
We're going to take a quick break now. We'll catch our breath. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 156. We'll do a few more topics when we come back, including Dan's favorite, Ring Card Girl of the Year.
Yeah.
Put excellence and excitement in your Vitamix. Add ice, and you get MMA Junkie Radio.
Be the smartest vato in the room and the most informed member of your fantasy league with Fantasy Sports Radio, featuring the best analysts like the fantasy football guru John Hansen and former baseball general manager Jim Bowden, plus shows with the Action Network, RotoWire, Fantasy Alarm, and more. Whatever game you play and whatever you've got a piece of the action, Fantasy Sports Radio has you covered on Sirius 210 XM87 and streaming on your phone and at home on Sirius XM connected devices and speakers. All right. Just to take a quick break from these awards, let's just talk about something else that's going on. We had Jim Ross on our show on Wednesday. We had a blast. He is the play-by-play announcer for AEW, that's All Elite Wrestling. It's a sellout. They're in Vegas. There's a lot of pro wrestling fans in town. Busted Open had a huge show this morning, and I know that AEW is supposed to, make a. They're backed by a billionaire, and they're supposed to make
Tony Khan of the Jaguars.
That's right. They're supposed to make a good run at some success there in the pro wrestling world that just keeps expanding. You got TNA, New Japan. There's lots of leagues other than the WWE, and I guess there's a lot of talent spread across a lot of these leagues. Anyway, back to AEW. I'm going to let Andre here talk a little bit about AEW, what to look out for. Who are the big names, Andre, for those that want to purchase the pay-per-view? $49.99.
All right, Y2J Chris Jericho is probably the biggest name in this whole card. Don't get me wrong. All right, Chris Jericho, he's been with the WWE since like the 90s.
Does he still do the Lion Tamer?
No, he doesn't do the Lion Tamer shtick, but his moveset's still the same. So he does do a little bit of that Lionheart kind of shtick that he used to do.
All right.
And he's facing Kenny Omega. So Kenny Omega is the biggest name outside of the WWE or anyone that's been associated with the WWE. So
I saw him on New Japan, right?
Yes, he was huge on New Japan.
Yeah.
And they faced each other before. What was it? Jericho and Omega.
Okay.
They faced each other once, and it was great. And then now they're going to do it again, but this time under AEW. It's going to be a hell of a fight. Okay. Then, if you remember from the Attitude Era, Goldust.
Yeah.
Dustin Rhodes?
He will be doing his last match, for all we know, against his younger brother, Cody, who is one of the founders of AEW.
Does he still wear tights that leave nothing to the imagination, that Goldust character?
He does, but he got rid of the wig, and since WWE went PG, he can't do his good old androgynous kind of personality.
His dad is one of the all-time greats, Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah. I actually referenced Dusty Rhodes the other day because there was a weird ref. I never seen him ref a fight before, but he sounded like Dusty Rhodes. He was like, "Back to your corner." Like I was like, this guy sounds like Dusty Rhodes.
All right. Well, All Elite Wrestling. Check out their website, and you can figure out how you want to order the show. And I gave a lot of information on Wednesday's show. I know that Fight TV has most of the international audience covered, but I know those in the UK, you have to go through a certain provider. Here in the United States, Dish Network, DirecTV, and all the cable listings as well. BR Live have got you covered. $49.99. Jim Ross will be calling the action. In fact, here's a quick audio clip from Jim's appearance, on the MMA Junkie Radio Show this past Wednesday.
AEW going on TNT in October, a day to be determined. I'm assuming it'll be Tuesday or Wednesday. Don't know that for sure, but nonetheless, it'll be live every week.
If they go Tuesday, are they going head up with SmackDown, or did SmackDown move? I can't remember.
So it's going to be maybe the last 2 weeks of SmackDown being on the USA Network. They might go head-to-head, depending on when AEW drops in. But since SmackDown will be going to Fox, over on October 28th, then SmackDown will be on Friday, so there's an open slot for them.
Oh.
But it's going directly after the night of going directly after Monday Night Raw. So people could just start their week, watch Raw, watch AEW, then by Wednesday their brains will be like, who had a better show this week?
Gotcha. And competition's good. I remember the Attitude Era was good because Nitro would push Raw and Raw would push Nitro, and
those were that was my era for sure. That golden age, if you will. That's when I was deep.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
And like I said in the first hour, Memorial Day weekend is upon us. Happy and safe Memorial Day to all of you, especially the ones that have to travel to be with family and friends. And for any of you that have family members that have served and paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom, much respect and love from Junkie Radio to you all. Because that's just, like I say, it is the ultimate sacrifice, but I'm sure there's pain every day in their remembrance. And unofficially, Memorial Day, I feel like, is like the start of summer. And I know June 21st, longest day of the year. Some say it's that day. And Labor Day is like the end. That's when you start hearing, about, hey, everyone's back officially kind of in school, and the leaves turn their color, and the sun just doesn't come out as strong and for as long as it used to, blah, blah, blah. But you guys have any summer plans? And if not, tell me about one of your favorite vacations then from the past. Go ahead. You start off, Dan.
Summer plans is going to be pretty MMA based. Not to tease this little summer preview that we're talking about here, but yeah, we got Dana White's Contender Series starting up, and this is a negative. I'm really excited for that Contender Series.
The new arena, have you seen it?
Oh no, I haven't.
Drive by when you see the headquarters. Right in front of it is Apex.
Yeah, I saw them.
Cool.
I saw them building it up, and yeah, so that's going to be interesting to check out. Although I may still probably cover a majority of those from home because I do those grading the winners articles. It's just easier to turn it around.
Right.
I already have my keyboard popped open, so there'll be a lot of MMA for me this summer. I don't think I'm going to be too much traveling. My birthday is August 7th, so
I guess you just had one, right? In the Hawaii, that was a vacation or was it work?
It was both. I made it both. It was my grandma's birthday about 4 days before the Bellator event, but learning that Bellator was going to go out there around the same time, I said, why don't we just turn it into a little bit of both? So that was great. But yeah, I don't know when, man. Not so much summer plans, but as far as my best summer goes, again, not too bright to look forward to. Not say not too bright, but nothing too crazy, I should say, to look forward to this year. But George, your second part, you asked what's the best kind of vacation.
Yes.
I don't know if it counts as summer, but I was coming back around this time, and I left in about April. It was about a month and a half span or so, and I did my Euro trip by myself. I flew in to London Gatwick, and then I had a out ticket about a month and a half later from Rome, Italy. I had a 27 country pass for the
27 countries.
Yeah, it was like 27 countries for 1 month on the 1 month on the Eurail.
Oh,
like you paid I think it was
access to.
Yeah, it was like $800 American or something, like 900 or something, pretty expensive. But when you did the math, it actually saved you a lot of money. And especially if you're like a hostel going, by yourself like me, I would like, okay, well, I'll take an overnight train because that'll save me. I'm already getting, the trip is already paid for, but I'll actually knock out a hostel or a hotel stay because I'll just sleep on the train.
And you get a bed on the train?
Some of them, yeah. If you chose the overnight trains and you reserve those fast enough, so I would do that to kind of just save money.
Yeah.
And it was a crazy trip. It really opened my eyes. To timestamp it, I remember being in Spain, having to be up at a weird time to try to watch Anderson Silva fight Talis Leites. If this timestamps it around that time, and
was that when Leites hurt his knee? Was that him in Chicago?
Yep. No. That was no. You're thinking of Patrick Cote. And Leites, it was kind of a lackluster fight. And I also tried to go to a soccer match, but I realized that Real Madrid versus Barcelona are pretty expensive tickets.
How much?
The cheapest I could find was 800 euro.
Get the fuck out of here!
And this was like 2009. I mean, it
wow.
was like six. It was like six to 8. And then if you looked at but then when you got to in England, it was cheaper, like for those teams and stuff. And I didn't get to go. I just watched in a pub. I remember Liverpool and Chelsea had a really fun game. I was really glad I got to watch and actually watch it in a pub and with a nice crowd. So I at least got to get that experience. But yeah, that was a good time. And I know you've had your own soccer and European adventure. So I thought.
How about you, Andre? Give me a summer vacation, either plans this summer or your favorite trip from a previous summer.
Maybe this summer, planning going to maybe South Carolina, hit the beach, have some beers,
nice.
Or daddy sodas, however you want to call it. Have some oysters. I like it raw.
Yeah.
Those oysters are so good down there.
Okay, so that's upcoming. You already have the plan set?
Oh, hell no. I'm a last-minute booker.
All right.
I push my luck that way.
I would say one that stands out for me.
Oysters on the East Coast. You're making me miss living on the East Coast. Oysters and Coke.
Plenty.
That was my thing.
Plenty of my Brazil trips were in our summer, which was their winter, and my Peru trips. But I had a real cool one in 2016. I was able to go back east to the lake house, Sir Dan Stupp.
Yeah.
Hung out there, and he threw me off that inner tube, pulling me on the boat. He threw me off that thing a couple times.
Oh, wow.
And then Juliet and I went up and down the coast of California. She had never seen San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
So it was pretty cool because when I knew we were turning into the bridge, there's always just fog.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I go, look at there. And like some clouds are moving and it exposed the bridge. And she was like, oh, wow.
That's
and
awesome.
like that's just one of those, like they call them like a wonder of the world. I don't know if it's officially one of the 7, but it's just one of those that can bring a tear to your eye,
Yeah.
And she really, really liked it. But we were down there, and we just did a lot in 2 weeks, and that was the first time I really had it. I think that I remember a 2-week vacation, where when you came back you were really refreshed. Because a lot of times you only do a week.
Yeah.
When you come back, you're like, what does everyone say? I wish I had a vacation from the vacation, because you really didn't decompress yet.
Yeah.
But after 2 weeks, you're like, oh boy, I missed work a little bit. And you're ready to come back. So I think I'm going to try and do that sometime. I don't know if I'll be able to this summer, but I want to do that again and make sure I get 2 weeks in. All right, let's take this last break, and then we'll come back and finish up some of those events. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 156. Stay close. We'll be right back.
Good, you're still here. The boys were just getting warmed up. Now the real show begins. Take it away, boys.
All right, now we're going to come back to the awards show that's coming up.
Hey.
And I mentioned we're going to do Ring Card Girl of the Year.
Yeah.
I guess that's why Dan's down to his boxers here.
Wait.
All right, here we go. You ready, Dan?
Let's do it.
Carly Baker, Jenny Andrade, Summer Daniels, Ariane Celeste, or Mercedes Terrell?
Well, they'll have to take turns, but sorry. This is a good selection here. A nice crop of talent pool. Got some classics, some flair. But, man, I think our bias is pretty written. I mean, if you go to MMA Junkie's Twitter page, you'll see a face on there that speaks to me a lot. And it's funny. If you're asking, my personal taste, I would probably go away from this type of girl. But as far as ring card girls, how do you not say Jenny Andrade and her infectious ways? I mean, she's infectious in more ways than one.
I would agree. She connects with her fans and the promotion. And I think just putting that extra effort out there is the difference maker for me. Now, so does Mercedes Terrell.
Yes.
She's as loyal as she's comes. As they comes, she's been with Bellator for years. I mean, from maybe the beginning. I remember it was Monica and Mercedes for a long time, or a couple years, and then Jade came through, and now they have another young lady. But she knows a lot about the fights themselves. But so does Jenny. So you don't just catch them off guard and say, hey, who do you like between Leandro Santos and whoever? I mean, they'll actually offer an opinion, and I don't care how how far down you go on the card. But my tiebreaker was Jenny was the last one to visit our studio. Mercedes used to come a lot when she lived in Vegas, but that's just my tiebreaker.
Hey, she won me over, though. Mercedes is a close second when she came in the studio here with Jay, their new podcast. Seems like open-minded, smart girl and stuff like from psychedelics to other stuff. I got respect for that. But you know who would have tipped the vote if they were in there? Vanessa Hansen. I don't know why. I like me some Vanessa Hansen. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but again, if we're talking about flavor profile or whatever you want to call it, like I like her swag.
All right, leading man: Dana White, Jeff Nowitzki, Martin Lewandowski, Chatri Sityodtong, or Scott Coker.
Man, I got to give love to Chatri because he's just made so many waves. But there's still a lot to shake out with one. Not all those waves are, let's just, I think people are still trying to make out what those waves consist of. Let's just put it that way. I love, Martin over there from KSW. Great production. Big fan of production, which is why I won, and KSW should get more love. I'm trying to watch more of that. Definitely not Nowitzki. Dana White. I mean, of course, Dana White, man. You can make an argument every year for him. He'll probably get it, and you can't disagree with that. But I love Coker, man. Give me Scott Coker, especially just revisiting history, looking what he's done for the women in Strikeforce, and now he's kind of flying that banner and
the Grand Prix, $1 million.
Grand Prix, bringing things back.
He had a champ fight.
I love
Hawaii
me some Scott
was
Coker.
nice.
Yeah,
I'm going with Coker too.
Coker.
All right, we'll fly through these. Best promotion: Ryzen, KSW, One Championship, Bellator, or UFC.
Boy, this year, I'm gonna go. Give me Bellator. I feel like they took it up a level. Again, Risen KSW 1 deserves more love than they get, but give me Bellator.
I'm going to go with UFC, and I know 99% are going to, but going to ESPN is pretty massive, and
that's a big feather in the cap.
I like that. All right, Personality of the Year: John Anik, Chael Sonnen, John McCarthy, Brendan Schaub, Joe Rogan.
Wow, that's a random one. I could see, Rogan obviously is the shoe in there. Schaub is a popular dude. I'm a big fan of McCarthy, though I'm not sure, if he's going to be getting a lot of votes for Personality of the Year. Give me John Anik. Chael Sonnen would seem like the obvious pick, but I love John Anik. And if you're a hardcore, even though he's a play-by-play, he gets me to pop a lot. Watching at home, you joke about John Anik's laugh. You always try to get him to pop on this show, George. He gets me to, yep, that's it. And he gets me to pop just watching him because he's a smart guy. He picks his spots and he throws his things in there. Anik Florian Pod, shout out to that.
Most of my friends, if I know that I made them laugh, it's because they said they did something like, woo,
right.
One of those. But with John Anik, all I need is,
and you can hear it on commentary.
And right away, you're like, oh my God, I must have said something super funny because that's his laugh. But no, you know what? I love his gambling talk. They're all beasts.
Yes.
But I'm gonna go with you, man. I guess I'm copycat here, but I love what he's brought as far as the table with the gambling talk. Cool. I love his raw honesty.
Yeah.
And those other guys are monsters as well, man.
Yes.
There's no way around. I really enjoy a lot of Chael's YouTube channel as of late, and of course Rogan and those other Schaub. Those guys are monster podcasters. Analyst of the Year: Robin Black, Michael Bisping, Paul Felder, Daniel Cormier, Dominic Cruz.
I'm surprised. I want to give a shout to we were talking about, I don't think it was off air though. Luke Thomas, man, I'm surprised he's not on here. He deserves to be on here. I just got to say that's who my vote would go to.
Fellow Fight Nation 156.
That's right.
Colleague.
That's right. He does a great job. He also, he hustles his butt over at fighting. He's had a lot of responsibilities he had to take on last year. with a shift up. So I just wanted to give him a shout. But on this one, I'll go for, again, it's weird how they do it. I'm guessing mainly broadcasters, because Robin Black is the only non-UFC broadcaster, though Robin does an excellent job currently on TKO, but he's called plenty of fights. Shouts to Robin Black, but give me Paul Felder, man. I love watching this guy's journey. I was, between being a black belt in Taekwondo and doing some college acting, I was like, hey, that sounds familiar. I think I can root for this guy. And seeing him do what honestly is, especially with the way they're going, I'll never do it for a big organization. But to be honest, my dream job, aside from this, which is a dream job, just being more particular, is doing commentating. So seeing a guy that comes from a similar martial arts and educational background like Paul Felder succeed so well, I can't help but root for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, shout out to Paul Felder. I think he's outstanding. He used to take acting classes when he was younger, and I think that's why he killed it when he did the auditions. He caught their eye, and most of the time they were going with that experienced vet or the retired veteran over there at Fox, but they gave this guy a chance. And he started doing Dana White Contender Series, and next thing you know, he moved into the fight nights, and now he's calling pay-per-views and everything, all while being an active fighter. So much respect. Now, that said, I like Cormier, and I'll tell you why. Because he's unpolished, and he's just a dude out there describing the action. And, yes, he gets technical, and how can you not respect a guy that's won 2 world titles and held them at the same time? And you're like, well, if he's talking, I'm listening. But I just love that he breaks out into laughter and jokes around, because I feel like that's me. Like, you can't take me serious. I'm definitely not polished, so I just relate on that front with him. Like, he's just having a good time doing what he loves to do. These other guys are sharp, man. Like, Cruz is sharp and on point. And I want to give a shout out to Dan Hardy as well. I think
Dan
he's money as well. He could have been in there. All right.
Best Pope Fight interviews, by the way, Daniel Cormier as well. Young man.
Yeah, he's pretty good at that. Yeah. We're running out of time here, so let's just do a quick one right here. Media source of the year. You got Sherdog, MMA Fighting, MMA Junkie, Bloody Elbow, or Flow Combat. Go ahead, Dan.
I'll go with the one with the headphones around that Junkie sign.
MMA Junkie, they look cool. We could really use your vote, Junkie Nation. Go to world@mmaawards.com. One more. We actually have time for one more.
All right.
MMA Journalist of the Year. Chuck Mindenhall, John Morgan, Brett Okamoto, Ariel Helwani, Kareem Zidane.
Easy, John Morgan, but shouts to Kareem. His work's not on the popular side, but he does some hardcore journalism that should be respected.
All right, I'm going with John Morgan as well, who, by the way, won the 2009 award.
That's right.
All right, that is it for this week. We will see you all on Tuesday. Again, we're off on Monday, but I want to thank all of our guests for the week. Aspen Ladd, Chris Cyborg, Dave Hirschbein, Ray Sefo, Valentina Shevchenko, Dustin Poirier, good old JR, Jim Ross, Ian Heinz, Eve Edwards, Nick Newell, and Aljamain Sterling. All right, we're out of here. For Andre the Giant and Dan Tom, I'm Gorgeous George. Have a nice weekend. We'll see you all on Tuesday. Go out there and be a champion.